thank everyone for coming out this afternoon. I want to thank the Friends of the Tewksbury Public Library for sponsoring this afternoon's program and sponsoring all our programs here at the library for adults, teens, and kids. We're a very active programming library. We run 1, sometimes 2 programs a day for adults here. If anyone has any cell phones on them, they want to turn those to vibrate or silent. The restrooms are down the hall on the right before you get to the front desk. I did want to plug that next Thursday on the 21st at 12:30 in this room, so a week from today, we're having another Armchair travel presentation, this time with Ken and Nancy Dillon. They'll be talking about their recent exploration of Europe, and they'll be focusing in particular on the big 3, England, France, and Italy. So that is next Thursday, 12:30 in this room. So very happy today to have Ken Harvey back with us. Ken presented here a couple years ago on the African safari. He's back today for Antarctica. So we are here to join award-winning photographer Ken Harvey on a virtual tour of Antarctica. Antarctica is a very special place. It boasts incredible wildlife that is unafraid of humans. It has extraordinary landscape with mountains over 16,000 feet high and weather that can be serene yet ferocious and unforgiving. The utter beauty of Antarctica is unforgettable. Blue and white icebergs towered over our ship. The dark water was sometimes as smooth as glass. The penguins, yes, you will see penguins. The penguins, seals, and whales were delightful, often putting on a display for the happy onlookers. So Ken will present this breathtaking slideshow of his trip, and he'll explain quite a bit about it. So all 30 of us or so, oh, now maybe I want to say 40. I think there's now 40 people in the room, and there's more people coming. This is great. So all 40 of us or so, let's give a big round of applause to Ken.
Wow, thank you, Robert. I have to see if I can live up to that one.
I think you wrote it, Ken, so.
I didn't write the breathtaking bit, did I?
I added a few adjectives and adverbs in there.
Okay. All right, welcome everybody. Let me swap over here and see. Let's close this down. Never works the way you want, does it? There we go. And show. There we are. Okay. Now let's see if this one works. Let's see if this one works. Let's see if this one works. Okay. There we go. Okay. And oh, boy, falling apart here. Antarctica is known as the White Continent, and as you probably heard with Robert's introduction, it seems like it ought to be the white and blue continent because it certainly is a lot of blue there. There it is. What a wonderful place. It's also very, very big and very, very far away. It's not as far away as Australia, which is like a 24-hour flight. Okay, that's not going to, I know. There we go. So, we're basically up here, not that's Montreal, we're here. So if you've ever flown to the Caribbean, Aruba, whatever, you know that's a long flight. Well, you're about halfway when you get to Aruba. So our flight, we went to New York first, then to Buenos Aires for 2 days. Now, why did we go for 2 days? Because we were leaving in the winter. Winter in the northern hemisphere is summer in the southern hemisphere. So we were leaving in winter. You don't want to go to Antarctica in the winter. Well, like in July. Sounds good, but that's when they have the cold time. So we didn't know if we would get out on time. If there was a snowstorm or whatever, the ship was not going to wait for us. So we planned 2 days in Buenos Aires. To, number one, make sure we would be able to get there, and number two, that our bags would get there, because we wouldn't want to spend 2 weeks on a ship without any luggage and change of clothes. Nobody would want us to do that. So here's Buenos Aires. Yeah, Buenos Aires, right between Argentina and Uruguay, and we then flew down to Ushuaia, which is right here, and that's a 3.5-hour flight. So it's a long way. My wife was invited. When she found out how far it was, she said, "Have a nice time." So, and then you can see the very tip of the peninsula of Antarctica right there. So that's what we did. Two little shots of Buenos Aires. Everybody's heard of Evita, very popular.
Keep going, Ken.
Okay, very popular Broadway show about Eva Perón, who was the First Lady of Argentina. She died in 1952. 1952, and people are still putting flowers on her grave. So this is her tomb. Her maiden name is Duarte. And when you go to the cemetery, and we only found it by accident, there's a sign to Evita's tomb this way because everybody wants to see it. So here's one of the plaques. And you can see this was put up in 2000. So that's 48 years after she died, and of course it was 19 years ago. Okay, Antarctica. Now, you might notice this is kind of tipped from the way we usually look at it, because Argentina is over this way. Well, this map is oriented on Greenwich Meridian, which goes right through London, England. So up here, this is 0 degrees, and we are about 70-something degrees west latitude, so that's why it's at an angle to Antarctica. This is the Drake Passage, which is notorious for rough seas. Why? Because there's a circumpolar current that goes around Antarctica like this, and it's all wide open until you get here, and that's a bit of a bottleneck. So that causes a lot of the confluence of all this water coming in together makes for rough water quite often. We were very lucky, very lucky. We didn't have anything bad. So here's the United States compared to Antarctica. Antarctica, did I mention it's big? I know it's far away. Antarctica is 5.4 million square miles. The United States, including Alaska, is only 4 million square miles. So you're not going to see all of Antarctica in 2 weeks. So here's Ushuaia. Actually, the town is right here. Chile is just across. This is called the Beagle Channel, named after the ship that Charles Darwin sailed on. So Chile, you'll see it from Ushuaia. In fact, we'll take a peek at that. So we sailed down the Beagle Channel out into the Drake Passage and then over to the Antarctic Peninsula. Ushuaia again. So, and here's Vinson Massif. That's the highest point in Antarctica, 16,066 feet high. It's really, really high. I thought, great, we'll get a chance to see the highest point in Antarctica because we're going to be down to about here. So it's only over to there. We should be able to see it. It was 1,000 miles away. Did I mention Antarctica is big? Okay. So didn't get a chance to see Vinson Massif by any means. Okay, South Shetland Islands, if anybody's read about Endurance, the Shackleton adventure, expedition, heck of a story. If you get a chance to read about it, do. So anyway, that's one of the places where they were shipwrecked. And my mouse keeps drifting down, so that's why the cursor goes. Arrival at Ushuaia Airport. Reasonably new airport, terribly inefficient. We got to the airport 2 hours before our flight was leaving, waited in a line, had to be 150 feet long. And it got to the point, they had one door leading to all of with the security check, one door. And of course, that was a big long line. They were announcing our names over the PA system because the plane wanted to leave. So, excuse me. We pushed right through and got on the plane. This is my friend John. He's guarding the luggage right here. He's the guy that decided to go with me because Sue didn't want to fly that far. So there's Chile, across the Beagle Channel from Ushuaia. And here's Ushuaia. It's a little bit of a touristy town. Not much reason to go there unless you're going somewhere else afterwards. But it is nestled among the mountains, pretty impressive. And as with every touristy town, you have to have a Hard Rock Cafe. And when we were booking this trip, there were two requirements we had. One, we had to leave from Ushuaia because that's the southernmost city in the world. And I've been to the northernmost. And we had to get below the Antarctic Circle. If we didn't do those two things, I wasn't going. Well, I was going, but I really wanted to do those two things. So here's the Hard Rock Cafe. We didn't bother going in. And they did have some touristy things. There's some kind of little thing you go through. Those weren't real people. They're just mannequins. Okay. It's like we really saw a jailbreak. No, we didn't. And here's our ship. Ship is about 50 feet wide, 278 feet long. It was originally built for NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, as a research vessel. It is not a cruise ship. When you see our cabin, you'll understand it is not a cruise ship. Let's see, anything I can tell you about it. It's not an icebreaker either. People ask me if this was an icebreaker, and no, it isn't. And you'll see why in a moment. Okay, here's the stern of the ship. And up on top, up here, you can see we had 6 Zodiacs, which are inflatable boats. Actually, they're called RIBs. Stands for Reinforced Inflatable Boat. Zodiacs are wonderful. You throw an outboard motor on the back and you're ready to go. They're very sturdy. And on the stern, you can see the stairs coming down. That's how they loaded us onto the Zodiacs. So it was pretty nice, actually. Very easy to get in and out. This is not our ship, but this is what the front of our ship looked like. It has a bulb on the front. Now, the bulb increases the efficiency of the ship by about 15%. It also stops a lot of the pitching because on a regular ship, you ride up a wave, you come down a wave, right up. Well, this kind of cuts through, so you stop a lot of the pitching. It didn't stop the rolling. Okay, and you'll see some of the rolling, but it did stop the pitching, which we're all happy about that. Oh, and you might see up here, these are indications to the tugboats. This means that there's a bulb on the front, so don't drive your tugboat because you won't see it. You don't wreck against the bulb. And these two things are for the bow thrusters. So this is how a ship can maneuver itself without a tugboat. It can use the bow thrusters to move the ship closer to the dock or away from the dock. Here's our suite, our stateroom. We said, okay, who's getting the top bunk and who's getting the bottom? And we said, well, you know, they're going to change the sheets halfway through the trip. So when they change the sheets, we'll alternate. So we both suffer with the top. You can't sit up. You can't sit up and read on the top bunk. So we worked that out. We tried to keep the room as neat as possible. That was about the neatest it ever got because we had so much stuff. But it was fine. We had a bathroom that we shared with the 2 guys in the adjacent cabin. So it was a shared bath for four people. Wash-up sink. Okay, great. Here's the bow of the ship. No longer the big wheel that you see on the old ships. Okay. In fact, most of the steering is done by computer. They tell the ship where they want to go, and the computer takes care of it, sets a beautiful course. And a lot of setups with, you might see up here, they have TV cameras all over. In fact, here's a close-up of the one on the lower left. All right, so this is looking at the stern of the ship. So you have even 4 TV cameras just looking at the stern. So when people are getting onto the Zodiacs, getting off, they can keep an eye on, make sure it's safe. Okay, this is part of the dining room. It only looked like that once. Okay, most of the time it was pretty bare. This is how it's set up for the last meal, which sounds kind of ominous, the last meal before getting back to port. And I know this was not on our ship, because if you look out the window here, you can see another ship. And that's not what we had. In fact, this is the bridge of the adjacent ship, and this thing right here is a window that spins. So if it's rainy, you don't have a windshield wiper, which doesn't work very well. This thing spins and all the water goes flipping off, and you can see through it very clearly. Pretty neat. If that would work on cars, we could do it on cars, but it doesn't work that way. Oh, come on in. This is part of the lounge. Not really elegant, but that's what we had. And most of the exterior doors had a very high threshold to keep water from sloshing in and out. And this one was pretty easy to handle. You just go up and you open the door. And some were a lot harder. I saw this and I thought, I don't think I can go through here. So I went somewhere else. Until I realized, now you see the A and the C, like what happened to B? Well, it's Spanish. A is abierto and C is cerrado, which open and closed. Once I figured out open and closed, then I realized all I had to do was open this one right here, those are called dogs, and I can get through the hatch. But it took me 3 or 4 days to figure that out. Okay. So this is on a lower deck where it's more likely to have heavy seas come in. The other one was an upper deck where it's mostly just spray and everything. And I didn't take this picture. I'm on the other side of the camera on this one. If you've ever been on a cruise, you always have to go through the drill, how you put your life vests on your PFD. And this is very nice, but I don't think it's to save you. I think it's to recover the body, because you can only last a few minutes in that water before you freeze to death. If anybody's watched Titanic, it's like that. Yes. So anyway, but they have the lights and the reflective patches and everything, so I thought, well, at least, they can send my body home. Oh, if anybody gets seasick, now's the time to look away. I wanted to try to get a picture, keep the horizon level so you get an idea of how the ship was going, and I didn't quite do it. In fact, I fell over in a minute, you see. Okay. And these were calm seas. This is not rough. Okay, that's enough of that. So I don't want anybody getting sick. Now I did mention it doesn't pitch, but it does roll. So our first stop, the South Shetland Islands, and they're called the HO Islands, and they got that name because there used to be a hydrographic office there. Well, hydrographic got abbreviated to HO, so it became the HO Islands. And Deception Island down here, you may have heard of that. That's actually a volcano, or it's a caldera. It is still active, slightly active. Last erupted in, I think, 1970. But it makes a really good place to have a port because it's protected on almost all sides. And we stopped there on the way back. So HO Island, Barrientos Island, actually where that little indicator is where we made our first stop. It was the only place, that was our first iceberg. Yay, we saw an iceberg. It's really a snowberg, isn't it? Because ice is packed hard. This is really snow. So if you say snowberg, nobody knows what you're talking about. So I have to call it an iceberg. Now, before you go on shore, you have to walk through these 3 pans to get any kind of organisms or whatever that might be on the ship, so you don't contaminate the islands. And when you come back, you go through the same process. Okay, so you don't bring anything from the islands onto the ship that goes someplace else. Here you are, Barrientos Island. These are all Gen 2 penguins. Now, before we went ashore, we were told, don't chase the wildlife, don't feed them, don't touch them, don't even walk fast, but stay away from them. Well, as soon as you get on shore, the penguins come up to you. So, I mean, it's like, what is this funny thing walking on my island? I haven't seen anything like this before. It was so hard not to touch them, but you can't. So, and you can see this is a chick, because up here, back of its neck, you can still see a lot of the down. And this one has a lot of down on the back of the neck. They won't go in the water until all that down is covered with adult feathers, because they would just get too cold. And penguins are really funny. I love penguins. I liked them before, but I love them now. They're so curious. So what are these big blue bags doing on the shore? I don't know, but let's climb on top of them. So there we are, Gen 2 penguins. And here's one. Now he looks mean, doesn't he? But he's not. He's just like squawking at me like, give me a fish. But what I want to point out is inside the mouth, if you look, you see little, not really barbs or teeth, but little things, spikes, to help get the fish down. So they catch the fish, they you can more easily swallow it. That's a problem when they try to feed the chick, because you have to regurgitate the fish to feed the chick. So the chick has to put its mouth way in to the parent's mouth so he can get the fish out. There you go. You can see the little spikes. Really interesting. And there's a chick. Very young chick. So he's completely covered in down, so you know that he's much younger than the other ones we saw that just had a few tufts left. And there's an adult. I love the feet. Now, I would call them pink feet. My wife would say, no, they're really more salmon, or peach. Okay, fine, they're pink. This is my show. And here's how they feed. So you can see how the chick has to put its beak way, way in to get past those little barbs so he can get the regurgitated fish. The chick looks bigger than the adult, doesn't it? Oh, here's one. Let's see how the video works. A couple little guys. Now, I thought the parents only had one chick at a time, but there are two guys chasing this mama or father to get some. So they'll chase and they'll chase and they'll chase. And then finally, the adult says, okay, you've proven yourself. Unfortunately, he or she stopped right behind that rock. Oh, fed the baby, and we're done. Okay, no more chasing. They'll go for hundreds of feet. And here's a chinstrap penguin. Anybody have an idea why they're called chinstrap penguins? Beats me. Here are two of them talking. Now, it's not an argument, it's some kind of a conversation they're having, whether it's their mates or whatever, I don't really know. And that's the first seal we got to see. This is a young male first seal coming up. This was the only green we saw the whole time, because this was like the most northern island we stopped on, and this is in February, which is there like August. So it's the height of summer. And that's the most green they get. So these penguins, did I mention I like penguins? They climb up to the tops of things. So they climbed up to the top of this hill, and I did a lot of research. There are no fish at the top of the hill. Why they went to the top of the hill, I have no idea. Now, they couldn't have been like scouting for a school of fish, because with those little legs, by the time they got down, the fish would be gone anyway. But that's what they do, they climb up the hill. Here's a chinstrap chick, so he still has some of the down. See, the down is a different color than on the Gen 2 penguins. And here are molted feathers. Now feathers, as you know, blow away easily, and they are just, the ground is just covered with them. Here's a closer look. Feathers are all over the place. So it's the molting season for the chicks. More chin straps. Some of these slides I'll go through quickly, like how many pictures of an iceberg can you look at, but I'll show them and just get by them quickly. Chin straps. Now here's that first seal we saw earlier. Now They don't eat penguins, but they can bite. So the penguins say, okay, you know, give them a little bit of room, and everybody got along just fine. Now this thing is called salp. It's about this big. I saw it on the beach, and I'd never seen anything like this before, and I've watched hundreds of nature shows. So I saw it was kind of moving or breathing a little bit. I asked the guide what it was, and she said it was salp. So I looked it up, and this is pictures from the internet. The salp form these big, long chains, and sometimes they're so numerous they outnumber the krill, or by weight, I guess you would say. And they make these long chains, and they're very strange. In alternating generations, they reproduce either sexually or asexually, back and forth, back and forth. And as I say, I'd never heard of them before, so it was interesting to learn that. That was not me, by the way, in that photograph. Okay, so here we are. We're coming back off the island. So now you get in this first one here, and you scrub your boot here. And you get in the next one, you scrub your boot there. You get the next one, you slosh it around a little bit. And then everybody gets together up top with the hoses to get the last bit of mud off. And that was the only place we had mud. So it was the only warm place. So people were pretty diligent about that. Now, here's how they got the Zodiacs off the ship. They hooked them up with several lines, take the hoist or davit over the edge of the ship and drop it down. And off they go. This was Stephen. Stephen was from California. He spends part of the time as a guide and part of the time researching whales and dolphins in Patagonia. So he lives on the coast of Chile and does his research then. Very cool. I told him his accent was great because most of the people spoke Spanish on the ship. So he was from California, he spoke fine. Here they are waiting for us at the stern, and they helped us on and off. Now you might notice this guy right here. He's got this big fur hat, and he's got ski goggles. It was only 30 degrees. The two people, the guy and his wife, they were from Spain. They wore ski goggles the whole time. Some people were bundled up like, I don't know what. It was right around the freezing mark the whole time, 30, 32 degrees. And that's, so I'm from New England. This is how I dress when it's 30 degrees. And look at the lady next to me. It's like she's going to Antarctica or something. More fur seals, Hydrurga rocks, named for the leopard seal. Now the male seals have more of a bulbous head, and the females, and a heavier neck. The females are more sleek, so you can tell the difference from a distance. So it looks like it's a young female there, and probably a young male because his head is just, and that's a male there. See the heavier neck on the left. There we are, with my trusty baseball cap. I was the only person that tucked my pants into the boots. Why? Because when we come ashore in the Zodiacs, we have to step in the water and walk onto the beach. Everybody was getting their pants wet. The bottoms of their pants were getting wet. I don't know why they didn't tuck their, so anyway, it's a long story. Okay, close up, fine. That's my friend John that went with me. Here's a male, you see the heavier neck. Now, generations upon generations of seals have been on these rocks and they have worn them smooth. These are basically craggy rocks, but you can see how they've been rounded off by so many seals. A little bit of silhouette. Love that mountain in the background. Now here's a young female fur seal. She was scratching her chin. And it wasn't until I looked more closely I realized they have toenails right here. See that? So, yeah, it's kind of strange. But yes, they do. In fact, look on you can see right there, the toenails. And these are called eared seals because they have this small ear. So they're also called sea lions. The ones that have ears are called sea lions. But if you call them all seals, that's fine too. Here we are on the Zodiac. I thought it was great going through the ice like that.
Yes, it does happen. More so in the North Pole, sometimes with belugas. That's happened with young humpbacks. And I suppose as that year,
Okay, I'm not sure you can hear that. The lady asked if the whales ever get stuck under the ice, and the guide was saying yes. It happens more in the Arctic with the beluga whales. They get under there, they can't find a breathing hole, and they end up drowning. There's our ship way off in the distance. I never really wanted to be that far away from the ship. That's where we were. And Stephen, he was pretty cool.
Okay.
Spoke really good English. He took us up on this ice floe.
Okay, we're gonna head back now.
And then this is when we were kind of backing off the ice floe. So here you can see the marks from the reinforced bottom of the boat. That was good. Crabeater seal. Crabeater seals do not eat crabs. They eat krill. Why they got named Crabeater seal, I have no idea. But they're the most common seal that you'll see down there. And this guy, here's another Crabeater seal. If you notice, the top, this part is kind of like drying off, and the water from all this fur is kind of going down there, making this dark, okay? But he was laying on his side like this, which didn't have a chance to dry at all. So when he picked his head up, let me go back. It looked like this. I don't think he knew how he looked. So there he is again. That was kind of strange. So what that tells me is when they get in the water, they're really dark. So the fish probably can't see them as well, but they come on shore and they turn almost white. Very interesting. Maybe that's so that they blend with the ice. I don't know. But this is how close John took this picture. This is how close we get to the animals. Went right up, actually even closer than that. They're not afraid of us. They know that we're not a threat. The people that go there never do anything to harm them, chase them, do anything like that. So they just look at us, especially if we're in a boat, and just let us go by. They'll pick their heads up and look at us, but that's about it, which is really nice. Here's a leopard seal. Leopard seals are very aggressive. In fact, I think it's Happy Feet, the animated movie with the penguins. It's the leopard seal that's going after the penguins. And leopard seals can get up to 1,320 pounds, 11 and a half feet long. They're big. The only thing bigger is the elephant seal. And they bite. Here's a female elephant seal. The females can get up to 2,000 pounds. The males can be 8,500 pounds, 20 feet long. They're huge, huge. We didn't see any males. I'm kind of sorry about that. It would have been pretty neat to see. Here's a skull from a seal. I tried to figure what kind it was, but too many of the small teeth were missing for me to compare it to things I could find on the internet. But I suspect it was a leopard seal because of the size of it. Sunset in the Antarctic. And I love this. It's one of my favorite pictures from down there. Now these I can't call them cliffs. It's where the snow hasn't broken off yet. That's about 150 feet high. It seems like it's just a little thing, but they're really, really big. And that's how you get these really, really big icebergs, snowbergs. Cooperville Island, we found a bunch of whale bones on Cooperville. Here's John taking a look at two of the vertebrae that are set up. Again, I don't know which species of whale it came from. My guess would be probably humpback because they're so common, and you know, the size would seem to work. I doubt that it's from a blue whale, but I don't know. Anyway, and down here you can see a couple of ribs. No. And we had a barbecue one night. One night. Okay, but I don't eat red meat, so they'd made me a different dinner. Here's the barbecue. And that was my dinner. And this was a typical dinner. It was okay. It was okay. Port Charcot, that was named for one of the explorers. He named it after his father, who just happened to have the same last name. So now we're starting to see a little bit more blue in the icebergs. Now, the more compact the iceberg is, the more it will be blue, until it gets to be really, really hard ice, and it'll be a bright blue. Now, the ice isn't blue any more than the sky is blue. Everybody thinks the sky is blue, but the sky is really clear. It's only the refraction of the light that makes it look blue. Same thing with the ice. There's another one. Here's an example of the ice in a snowberg. Now, as they melt, they turn over and everything, so it looks like it's on its side. Well, I guess it is on its side, but that's how the waves melt away at the bergs, and they tend to tip. So there's this beautiful blue stripe through this little berg. And this is called growler ice. It's called growler ice, so that I was told, because you don't see it until you hear it going along the side of your ship, and it kind of growls at you, because it's so dark and clear, not dark, so clear that it shows the dark water, and you don't really notice it until you get there. But our guide was really excited when he saw this. I didn't know why. Well, this was too big to bring on the Zodiac, but we did find one that was smaller. We brought it on, and it was beautiful. It was like cut crystal. It was so clear, and it's tens of thousands of years old. It's from the bottom of the glaciers, where all the impurities and air had all been squeezed out, so it becomes just this beautiful crystal. So what do you do with something like that? Well, you bring it onto the ship, of course. So there it is on the ship. And what do you do with that? You put it in your drinks. So I had my Coke Zero with ice that was tens of thousands of years old. Any Harry Potter fans? Okay, sorting, sorting hat iceberg, yeah. More blue. Now you can get an idea of the size of this. It was a small berg, but from the water rushing in and out, eating away at it. I just love the color blue that they have. Oh, out on another trip. There's our ship. Again, I didn't like being that far from the ship, but you get an idea of this iceberg that's over there. And if you think of the ice that's in your glass of water, how much of it sticks over the top of the water and how much is below the water, that's kind of the way these bergs are, except because they're not hard ice, they rise a little bit higher, but still, we were told whatever the size of the iceberg is sticking out of the water, stay 3 times that away from it, because as they melt, they can roll. And if they roll and you're really close, you're in trouble. That's when the little beacon on your life vest goes off, okay? I love the lighting on this one. So obviously I took a picture. Then I thought I'd make something a little more artistic out of it. So I zoomed in a little bit. I really kind of like that with the way the light is. And I thought, well, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit further. So I zoomed in like this. I kind of like that. And then I noticed at the very top, see this little dark dot? So I tried to, can you see it? I tried to zoom in on that. It's a seal. I thought the penguins were stupid going up on that hill. Like, what are you going to do up there? And how are you going to get down? Okay. Anyway, so it's kind of blurry, but that's because I took this big picture and I zoomed into this little teeny piece of it. This is the Wordie House. Wordie House, I have to read some of this. It was named for James Wordie, who was the chief scientist and geologist on Shackleton's endurance expedition in 1914 to 1917. He was also an advisor to another team, and that's about all I can tell you. So the original hut was built way, way back then, but was destroyed in 1946, possibly by a tsunami. I'm thinking, I've got to spend a winter down in Antarctica. You can't get off. You can't go anywhere because nothing goes in and out. And then I have to worry about a tsunami while I'm doing all this. I'm going to the Bahamas. Okay. It is now a historic site. Oh, and off to the distance, you see that little sign? Well, that says British Crown Land. Now, the British don't own it anymore. No country owns any part of Antarctica. People have research stations there by agreement, but nobody really owns any of it. Let me go back. So you can see people up there. We did climb up that hill, and here's a picture, here's a view from up on that hill. And you see the Wordy House down below. And every time I see this snow piled up like that, I don't know why it's piled up, but it reminds me of my driveway. It seems like my driveway gets more snow than any part of the yard. Inside Wordy House, they've left all the old cans and things there so people can see. It's a historic place. It was designated a historic site in 1996. And people go in and see what it used to be like. Very basic living, very basic. Here's some crampons for the guys to put on their boots when they go out on the ice so they don't slide. Not much in the way of a heating system. Little typewriter. There's the lavatory. Very, very basic. But I was thinking if it was 50 below outside with the wind howling, this would look like heaven. So I didn't ask any more questions about that one. Now we're on our way to another place called Vernadsky Station, which is a Ukrainian research station. These people were down there in a sailboat. Nuts. And this lady saw us, came out in a kayak to greet us and ask if so-and-so was with our group. No, so-and-so wasn't, but it's nice to meet you. Here she is. I love the mittens. You put your hands, the mittens go right around the paddle here, so you stay nice and warm. They're very happy. I didn't want to go across the Drake Passage in that ship. I certainly don't want to do it in a little sailboat. She was happy about it, though. Okay, Vernadsky Station, as I say, Ukrainian. Here's how they painted up the I don't know if that was an oil drum or what. I actually don't know. But I noticed the palm trees here, a little bit of Ukrainian humor. And I didn't know if that was the sun or the moon, but then I thought it looks like a solar eclipse. So, could be. All right, Vernadsky Station. They have a little bit of humor, even the Ukrainians. Actually, this used to be a British research station. So that's probably where these signs came from, bus stop. And this says neighborhood watch area. So the Brits were there before, and I have a story about that in a bit. So this is another sailboat. This isn't the one we saw earlier. This is another, whether they were traveling together, I don't know. But again, it's beyond my willingness to go down there and do that. The old signpost, how far it is to different places. Rio is something like 3,000 miles away. You think Rio is pretty far south. Bill Gates. So Bill Gates and I have something in common aside from having worked on Windows. So here's Bill Gates, and it says with his family. I guess he only has men in his family. I don't know. It's one lady over there. So the Ukrainian guy behind the bar didn't want to smile at all. So I was taking a picture. It said smile. He did. One cheek smile. That was the best I got out of him. Now, the bar was built by some British guys. And when the authorities, or whoever was in charge of the place, found out these British guys had used wood to build a bar, the guys got fired. Yeah, now, whether they needed the wood for building a fire, or I have no idea, but you would think everybody would want a bar, but the guys got fired for it. Snooker table, which is nice. You have to have something to do. Has anybody been to Key West? So you see things, the southernmost 7-Eleven, the southernmost CVS, southernmost house. This is the southernmost gift shop. But you know what? I bet there's one at the South Pole. I bet there is. So this is just like all the things in Key West. Yeah. In fact, I saw a house in Key West that said the southernmost house. It's a little competition. And there's their refrigerator. So even Ukrainians put magnets on the refrigerators. Of course, I couldn't read any of it. The only one I could read was this one, Kyiv. We say Kiev, but they say Kyiv, right there. I call this the blue diamond because of the reflection. You can see how calm the water was there. It was just almost like glass. It was beautiful. The only time we had any kind of rough water was in the Drake Passage. The rest of it was just beautiful. Ship's too far away again. Another blue iceberg. Another iceberg with a cave. I always want to go in there, but you don't. Stay away. Now, the smoother parts are parts that had been in the water. So the water, because it melts it, it makes it smooth. And where things crack off, you have more of a rough surface. I like the little tunnel right there. I'd love to take the Zodiac through that tunnel. No. Oh yeah, here we are. One of the places we were able to actually sit down and slide, which was a lot of fun. Oh, she lost the glove, see that? All right. And she was videoing herself with the phone. The next person was videoing with the phone and dropped the phone. Oh, there it goes. So the next person had the assignment of catching one of those things. Let's see. Here we go. Get the glove. All right. Eventually, I actually went out and got that person's phone. I didn't want to see that get destroyed. And then somebody was nice enough to video me. Oh, here we go. Good fun. Interesting icebergs, half under, half above. And this is called brash ice. Nobody could explain how brash ice came about or how it got its name, but you had like a line of little pieces of ice. Here's another one. This little video runs a little bit long. It had this glacier calving, so it doesn't look like much. But then you'll see the wave that it kicks up, so you'll realize how big that really is. Okay, and the penguins see this all the time. They don't care one bit. Okay, oh, just another glacier calving, not a big deal. You'll see the waves come in, and as it clears a little bit, you'll see a big ring of brash ice, which is funny because it doesn't have any ice in the middle. It's only out at the edge. I won't let it go too long because it can get boring. You see how it's forming there? So I put that down as Harvey's theory of brash ice. Okay, that's enough. Beautiful. The lighting down there is just incredible. This place, we were going to climb to the top of this hill to see if there are any penguins there. And it turned out to be too steep and slippery. If we had spikes, we would have made it okay, but it was pretty steep. And if somebody had slipped, they would have just gone all the way down. So it got too dangerous. And we came back. We were still going back up. There's one of the Zodiacs going out to the ship. When I came back, they were doing the polar plunge. Yeah. I I didn't know they were going to do this. It's just as well because I have an excuse for not doing it. Okay, but we had 18 people do the polar plunge, go in completely under the water, come out, get wrapped in a towel, and go back to the ship. Most of them were done by the time we got there. So John and I, being so brave, we stood in the water. Now, we took a jacket off, and people say, "Oh, was the water cold?" Yeah, the water was cold. That's ice in the background. You see that? Yeah, the water was cold. Actually, I probably could have gone in because it had like the nylon hiking pants, which would have dried easily enough, and all. But I guess I didn't really want to go in, but kind of wish I had. You know, the air temperature. It was about 30. Okay, and so the water is 30, 32. You know, seawater, so it freezes at a lower temperature than fresh water, but there's only like a 2 degrees difference. So, yeah, it was cold. I was happy. Okay, take the picture. I'm getting out of here. Now here, we finally got below the Antarctic Circle. I put an app on my phone that would give me the latitude and longitude so I could be sure they weren't cheating me, and we really did get below the Antarctic Circle. So here we are, 66, oops, go back. 66 degrees south. Now 66.33 is the Antarctic Circle, so 66.44 is below it. But the weird part, if you look up here, it says we're 61 feet below sea level. And I thought, okay, the app is wrong. But then I was thinking about it. Now, this is conjecture, but you know how we have tides? So the Earth and the Moon actually go around a common center of gravity. We think the Moon goes around the Earth, but Earth moves a little bit too. So you have the gravity of the Moon pulling the tide, and you have the centrifugal force making the tide on the other side. That's why you have 2 tides a day, right? Where does all that water come from? The top and the bottom. Does that make sense? I don't know if it's true, but it makes sense to me. I think it's a great theory. Harvey's theory about low tides. So since we went below the Antarctic Circle, we had to have some kind of drink that was blue and green. So that was good. That's what this guy was setting up for us. And this one, this part right here, I just love the lighting on this. I find that beautiful. I'd love to climb it, but I can tell it wouldn't be a good idea because if you look, like right here, these are crevices. And that stuff could crack off or you could fall into them or whatever. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So we're on our way back now. We've seen most of the things we're going to see. So the captain and the 2 tour leaders came to give us the good news that we're going to go by Deception Island. But the bad news is we had a force 12 hurricane coming. Now they use a different system than we do. So here's the Antarctic Peninsula where we are. So we're right about here at this point, and we want to go there. And the captain said, if I were you, we would not really stop at Deception Island and we would go back to Ushuaia. And who are we to say? I mean, he's the captain. So we said, okay, we'll do that. But my thought, you know, if we stayed at Deception Island for a little bit, that storm would go by, wouldn't it? Okay, enough said about that. Here's Deception Island. I said it's a caldera, but you can get into it. Some countries have little research stations inside. Here we are inside. Now, that's about 1,500 feet high, that rim of the caldera. And they call these the black and white glaciers because they're mixed with so much soot from the volcano. Now, it's not erupting, so I don't know if it's smoke that comes out or what, but the glaciers are not just white. Pretty interesting look. You could see the steam or mist coming off the water here from heat. And if you go on shore, which we didn't get a chance to do, the beach is warm. So I really wanted to do that. So here's another one. You can see the mist coming off the water. So that's 30 or 32 degree water that's making mist. So that's pretty warm. And the black and white glaciers, pretty neat looking. This is inside again. Okay, we've left Deception Island, and now we started to see more wildlife than was in just the place where we were. Here's a humpback whale, and here's one that's breaching. Splash. I did a dive like that once. Now here are 2 humpback whales, each one sticking a flipper out of the water. Now, I've never seen that on a nature show, but I thought that was pretty cool. Why they do that, I have no idea. Arctic tern. Arctic terns spend the summer in Antarctica. Well, no, they spend February in Antarctica. I don't know whether to call it winter or summer. And our summer in the Arctic. So they fly back and forth. They can do anywhere between 44 and 56,000 miles a year. A year. So that's probably why they only breed every 3rd year. They're just too tired. And they can live 15 to 30 years, which is amazing. Here's an albatross. It looks just like a seagull, but it has a 10-foot wingspan. They're huge. So that's, the old sailors, they would tie an albatross around a guy's neck if he was a bad guy. You have to lug this thing around. Yeah, big birds. And they almost never land. These are giant petrels. They don't have a very nice face, but I imagine their mothers love them. And a dolphin. We saw dolphins there. And it was really hard to get pictures of the dolphins because you never know where they're going to come up. By the time you take the picture, they're already in the water again. But I did get this guy. And the rocking of the ship. Toward the end of the tour, a lot of people were going to sleep. If anybody gets seasick, look away. And this is my cereal one morning. I was trying to keep it steady. Oh, well. That's good enough. So then we were back in the Beagle Channel. We were safe from this mythical hurricane. I didn't see any indication of a hurricane anywhere when we were out there, but we got back to the Beagle Channel. Everything was fine. Then we said goodbye to some friends. These 2 people are Australian, became very friendly with them. And that was it.